Hi everyone. The problem now that we are going to solve involves the input table as match score. This table has below columns player ID, which is the ID of the player, player name, that is the name of the player, player score, that is the number of runs that the player has scored, match date, that is the date on which the match was played. So every entry gives information about the player as to the number of runs that they have scored on a given match date. For example, Virat Kohli has scored 115 runs on a match played on 29th November. So this is the input that we have. As part of the output, we need to find the third highest score of each player. So, for example, if we see scores of Virat Kohli, his highest score is 180, second highest is 115, third highest is 91. So, this is the entry that we are looking as part of the output, the third highest score of every player. Now, if we see in the input, there are players who have played less than 3 matches. So, for such players who have played less than 3 matches, we need to find the second or first highest score. So, for example, for player Ravindra Jadeja, since he has played less than 3 matches, we will consider his second highest score as part of the output, which is score 5. So, as we see here, this is the output. Similarly, for Suryakumar Yadav, he has played only one match, so that will be his highest score. So that will be as part of the output. So hope the input and output is clear. We will find the third highest score of every player who has played 3 or more matches. But for other players who have played less than 3 matches, we will find the lowest score that they have in the number of matches that they have played. So hope it is clear. Now let's see the approach that we can take to solve this problem. So this is the input that we have and this is the required output. So as a first step, what we can do is for every player, we can rank the entries. So how we will rank it? We will rank on based on the scores. So the score which is the highest will have rank as 1 and as and when the scores go down, the ranking will increase. So let's take example of Virat Kohli. So he has highest score of 180. So that will have rank 1. The second highest is 115. So that will have rank 2 and so on. So like this, we will provide the ranking in the order of the scores that the player has made. Now, once we do this ranking, what do we do next? Since we have to find the third highest, so we can simply filter out the records where ranking is 3. So that way we can solve the problem. So now if we do the ranking as 3, we get the solution. But this is a partial solution. We are not getting what we are looking for. So like we said, for the players who have played 3 or more matches, we have got the right output here for Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. But for the other players who have played less than 3 matches, we are not finding out their output as per this approach because we don't have ranking as 3 for those players. So that is what the issue is here. If we go with the normal approach of ranking and getting the entries with ranking as 3, we are not getting the full solution. So how do we solve this problem? How do we get the remaining two entries? That is for the players who have played less than 3 matches. Now observe here, for every player, these are the number of matches they have played. So if we count the number of entries, that will indicate how many matches they have played. So if we count entries for Virat Kohli, he has played 5 matches. Likewise, for every player, we can count the number of entries, and that will give the matches that they have played. So now we have computed the number of matches that the player has played. If we closely observe the ranking and the number of matches, if it is same, okay, if it is same for the players who have played less than 3 matches, so for them we can consider that entry. Okay, so for example, for Ravindra Jadeja, if ranking and number of matches are same, this is the entry that we are looking for. Similarly, for Suryakumar Yadav, the ranking is 1 and the number of matches is 1. So this way, the remaining two entries as well we can identify. So this way we can find out whenever these are matching, we get those entries as well. So this way we can solve the problem. So what we have done, as a first step, we will compute the ranking. So why we are computing the ranking? So that we can identify the player's third highest score by simply checking on this column for those entries where the ranking is 3. And that way we will have a one part of the solution. For the second part, we will go ahead and find the number of matches that the player has played, and we can just do a equal to comparison where the ranking and the number of matches are same. Those are the entries for those players who have played less than 3 matches. So this way we will solve the problem. So let's implement this approach and get the output that is required. So now we will work on the input table, that is match score. So we will fetch all the records from this match score table. For now, we will retain all the columns, and now we will add the first derived column, that is the ranking. So for that, we will use the window function of row number. Since we have to find the separate ranking for each of the players, we have to do a grouping. So we have to do the grouping based on the player ID, so that there will be separate ranking for each of the players. So we will specify that using the partition by clause. So we will do grouping based on the player ID, and now we will specify the order in which the ranking is to be added. So since we want the highest score to be ranked at the top, we will specify order by player score in the descending order. And since, as per the requirement, the highest score player has to be ordered by the match date, we will also specify the sorting based on the match date column. So this will be our ranking column. So this is the first derived column that we have obtained. In addition to it, we will also find the number of matches the player has played. So for that, we will use the count window function. And similarly here, as we have to find the number of matches played by each of the players, we have to do a grouping, which we will specify using the partition by clause on the player ID column. Let's call it as CNT, which represents the count of number of matches the player has played. So let's run and see the output. So now we have obtained both the derived column, that is ranking, and the number of matches the player has played. So what we will do is we will add this as part of a CTE. Let's call it as match CTE. So we will operate on this match CTE that we have just created. For now, we will retain all the columns. So once we have this data, the only part that we have to do is we have to filter the records. So the first filter criteria is we need to get all the entries where rank is 3. So let's add the filter and see the output. So once we apply this filter and execute the query, we have obtained those entries for the players who have played 3 or more matches. So we have obtained those entries. We still need to get the entry for players who have played less than 3 matches. So if we go back to what we had as a previous output generated, so if we see here, as we discussed, we need to get those entries where the ranking and the count is same. So for that, we will use the second criteria here. We will use the OR condition, and now we will specify if the number of matches are less than 3. That is, if count is less than 3 and if the ranking and the count are same. So this will be for the players who have played less than 3 matches. So let's run and see the output. So as seen, we have now obtained the required solution. We will now, as a last step, just retain the columns that are required as part of the output, and we will remove the columns which we had derived. So we will keep player ID, player name, player score and match date column. Let's run and see the output. So we have got the final output that we were looking for. So this is the required solution that we have now. Now let's do a quick walkthrough of the query that we have written. So this is the query that we have written. So what we have done is we have derived two columns. One is the ranking, which we have derived using the row number window function. We have done the grouping based on the player ID, and we have got the ranking in the order of player score in the descending order and followed by match date. So for the players whose score is same in multiple matches, the decision of ranking will be based on the match date. And similarly, we have derived the total matches the player has played using the count window function. We have done the grouping based on the player ID so that we can obtain the number of matches played by each player. So once we have these two derived column, we have to just filter the records. We have to get only those entries where the ranking is 3, and for players who have played less than 3 matches, we have to check if the player has played less than 3 matches and get only those entries where ranking is equal to the count, that is the number of matches played by user. So the create table and insert statement will be added in the description. If you found the video useful, please like the video. If you have
Like,
not yet
comment, and
subscribed the channel,
subscribe.
please subscribe. Please provide your feedback in the comments, and please share the video in your circle so that more people can benefit. Thank you.